Welcome, everybody, to episode number 17 of the Hockey Toolkit. I am Trevor DiCarlo.
I'm Andrew Trimble, and we're growing this podcast every single week. We currently now have Cindy Barron. She is my mother-in-law. She followed us, Trev.
No way.
Yeah, we got Cindy Barron on board.
You know what? I've now got my uncle on board, too. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing with this stuff.
Yes.
We're moving up, so our family is starting to now accept us.
Leaps and bounds. I think they call that a hockey stick. They call that hockey stick growth, right? Like you go from down and just shoot right up.
I like the Nike. Like we started off kind of like a little bit, and then we just really sunk. Everybody was like, "All right, this is gonna be garbage," and then we just took off, and then we never looked back. Nothing. Just pure
It's because
growth.
our social media is so strong. It's because our social media is on point.
I see what he did there.
That's a segue right there.
That's a great segue, yeah. But yeah, I mean today's
before we
episode.
Get to that, we should talk. We should talk about the Stanley Cup Final.
Oh God, I'm going to be quite honest. So yeah, this past week we are scheduling a day later than we usually do because my just strong workaholic ass here was out of town doing training out in Indianapolis. So that, I mean, if you want a vacation spot, that is the last place probably next to Cleveland, Ohio, I would want to go to. So I do not recommend going to Indianapolis. There's nothing to do. But so yeah, I actually was out there. It was not fun having to start the game at 8:00 at night. But yeah, the Golden Knights there. They really made a pretty so what I'm looking for. I want to say maybe like they made a statement like, okay, yeah. I mean there was just like no chance the Panthers they didn't have Tkachuk. But I don't think Kachuk's going to help prevent 9 goals against in a Stanley Cup Final decision game. What are your thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, it's always crazy hearing like the injury report the day after the Stanley Cup Final ends, and you got Tkachuk, who he's out with a broken sternum. You got 3 or 4 guys out with significant injuries. Ekblad himself had like 4 different injuries. I think actually he played most of the series without his legs. I think he's a quadriplegic, I think.
Almost, yeah.
So that sets you back. That hurts the power play.
When your number one defenseman's out, yeah, he with broken foot, messed up both his shoulders. I thought I saw. Yeah, I mean he was, and Tkachuk's was Ekblad was from the Bruins series, so you're talking about 2 more series ago, and then you've got what Tkachuk's was. I think his was from the big hit that he took from open ice. But you know what, though? He never once bitched about it, and neither did the Panthers themselves. They never complained about that hit, which was a great open ice hit.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas if it was the other way around, it's like the Knights would have been like just bitching up a storm. But I mean, congratulations to the Las Vegas Kings. Kings, what am I all right, let me redo that. Congratulations to the Las Vegas Knights. Again, this is what happens when you stay in Indy too long. And I was only there for 2 days. Imagine the people that live there. And just like that, our entire listenership in Indiana just dropped.
Yeah.
I checked, wasn't that high anyways.
He spent a week in Indiana one night.
Yeah, exactly. That's all it was. It was like the old woman. It was like Rose in the Titanic. It was like 84 years ago. Anyhow, yeah, I was like, Trevor, you were only gone for 10 minutes. Yeah, so congrats to the Las Vegas Knights. It's definitely cool. I did see that, what was it actually, a professional agent, NHL pro agent, Alan Walsh, was kind of barking up a storm on Twitter earlier about the viewership being, down significantly, and I know what he's doing it from his side because he's just trying to, actually his argument was because it really wasn't on any major network. But I thought this was an exciting playoff series, though.
Oh, I think the whole playoffs was really, really great. I think the level of hockey was spectacular. I thought that, like we talked about in the earlier episode about these other markets getting in, I think that's a positive for the league. There was actually a reel or something I watched by Dana White today, and he was talking about the NHL and their marketing.
I saw
And
that too.
you saw that, yeah, and how like the use of video and I forget the actual like the terminology that he used, but I think that that segues nice into what our topic is. But I think that certainly with the NHL is so fast, they're so skilled, there's such big hits. This playoff, the whole playoffs, playoff tournament had some of the biggest hits I've seen in the last 10 years in playoff hockey. I think we need to reevaluate as a league a little bit how we promote it within the league and really showcasing the talents of those players.
I don't disagree. I mean, I saw exactly what you're talking about. I just saw it and I was like, okay, he's a little bit off his rocker, but no, I mean they do. They really need to step up their advertising and sell these young players and sell not just young players but all players. I mean, again, you still have one of the best of all time, and Sidney Crosby, still playing. And while he's not the most probably entertaining guy in the world, still find a way to sell him. Ovechkin, I'm sure, will do any commercial for anybody. He'll probably do it for free if it's something silly. I don't know, though. I'm not his agent, so don't quote me on that. But, they got to do a better job. And, before we've had so many segues into our topic here. But before we hit that, I know you just got back from Czech.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did that go?
It was great. It was the travel. Airports are always tough, right? So we got kind of segues. I ended up fly through Paris at one point to get onto another flight to Prague.
Boo-hoo.
I know, but
you didn't get stuck in Indianapolis.
That's true. But it was once we got out there, it was a great event. And Czech Sports Camps. Shout out to Daniel Cerny and Victor Lucas. They ran the showcase for us, and they did a tremendous job. We had on-ice practices. We had presentations. We had time in the gym. We had games. You had meetings with coaches that were like not just like a meat market like they did. You do at some showcases, but this was really good feedback and information. And I thought that it was a spectacular event, and I hope we can grow it in the future with our league because the players we're going to get out of there were some top players for sure. And I think they'll make a big impact in the EHL next season.
Well, yeah, I mean, I followed, of course I follow you on pretty much every social media aspect.
Thanks, buddy.
So anything to boost our numbers up. But no, I mean, it was great to see. I mean, all the stuff that you were showing, especially, the on-ice portions, you had your own action shots of being on the ice, talking to the kids and stuff, which is awesome. I wish I could hire my own personal photographer to follow me everywhere, but I can't, and it's probably good that I don't. But that being said, I mean, it looked like a lot of fun, and it looks like you guys actually, based off of what I've been seeing, you guys signed a couple kids out of there. Yeah, and
I always think there's two ways to look at if you're a junior hockey operator. I never take a win now mentality. I want to get the best players who have the highest ceilings in the program because, if I can recruit an 06 or an 07 and he can end up being a kid who's going to be a Division I commitment, that leads to better commitments down the road. So, we're going to come out with this thing with a bunch of 05s and 06 and 07, who I think are really high end kids who have a lot of potential and can play some of the best leagues, I think, in North America down the road. They have the potential for that. So that's exciting.
Again, that had to be an awesome experience. How much, again, as we are kind of also a coaching podcast, how much discussions did you have with the coaches and the hockey honchos over there, like on just anything hockey related, like development practices or not actual practice, but even practice, but like just their kind of like skill situations, like how they're teaching stuff or what they're teaching.
Yeah, I had to kind of a mix of both. Like I'm always a person who likes to, if I'm not running a practice, I jump on and move pucks for other people. So Victor and Daniel ran some practices. Cody Gagne, who coaches the Boston Junior Terriers, did some drills and I move their pucks for them. And then you take some things that you see what they're doing and how they're communicating with the kids and what drills are effective. And you steal from some people that you really think are good coaches. And I did a lot of that over the weekend. We had a lot of discussions about players and what we think were good players for particular programs and roster construction. So yeah, there was definitely a good recruiting trip. It was a good trip for just being in a great part of the world, but also like for building those relationships with those coaches. I think that stuff is so valuable.
Absolutely. What was there anything that really blew you away about the the kids on the ice or just the experience in general, or?
No, not too much. I mean, I think that I think some of the players that you do see. So there's a lot of high end skill kids in the Czech Republic. Like it's a skill based, a lot with the ADM stuff. Like there's a lot of skilled kids. But then when you see that kid who competes really hard, or the kid who drives the net really hard and has simple habits and stops on the net and is tough to play against, that kid sticks out. And a lot of like a Matthew Tkachuk, he had a great playoff for all those reasons. And I think we signed a kid like that who is going to be really, really tough to play against. So any kids who are listening to this, I'd say, like, when you go into a tryout or showcase or a combine, there's different ways to separate yourself. You can separate yourself if you're going to be like a player who's got that high-end skill and maybe stick out. But if all the kids are doing that, find your niche. And if you can be something else that sticks out, do that, because that'll get you noticed.
No, absolutely. That's great advice, and that's awesome that you guys were able to find some players out there that are going to come over here back to the States and definitely help your both the program not only now but also hopefully in the long run as well.
Absolutely.
But we want to obviously, like I said, I was able to follow you on social media, your updates and all that stuff, and kind of leads us into today's topic, which is social media, especially amongst hockey teams. We're kind of looking at it more from a broad base of a, what are teams doing social media wise, or for players, and not so much as like a do or don't. I mean, there will be some, I guess you could say, but it's not like one of those where we're looking to talk about like unearthing, tweets or whatever type stuff like from 15 years ago that'll get you just fired in general today. I had to cancel, it's not the right word. I get just fired, but what? So for you, again, you guys, I see a lot of stuff that you guys do, which I think is even more than a lot of what the teams are doing in not only the EHL, but the USPHL, even the NA. Like I see a lot of stuff that you've been pumping out. And what is your guys' with the Wolves? What do you guys do with for social media, and who runs it, who operates it, all that fun stuff?
Well, I run it, and we have a person who does the graphics for us, and we have another person who does videos for us. I kind of use that person, Tom Missert. He does a couple of videos over the course of the year to promote different things with our brand. But I find that consistency is key. So, I want to make sure I pump out something every single day to keep our audience engaged. If I'm infrequent with my content, then there's other things that are going to replace that content. So I want to stay actively engaged with, marketing our programs and our players so that our audience can continually interact with that marketplace.
I mean, which is, makes a lot of sense. And now that it also explains why there's so much content of you in it and not just, more so the other coaches. If you're running it, of course, you're going to put yourself. No, I'm just kidding.
Hopefully I don't do that too much.
No. It's weird that it always ends with you and smiling at the camera, but it's, it's one of those things. But no, I'm just kidding. Again, I mean, social media, it's, as we've talked about before, it's really taken, I'm about to say it's really taken the world by storm. That would have been like 20 years ago, maybe. But, in the scope of player, we just talked about bringing players into a club, and bringing players, not only players, but also just promoting your club in general. I mean, it's one of those things where if you don't have it, you are putting yourself, way behind the 8 ball. I mean, you're behind the 12th ball, at that point.
Sure. And, whether you're a hockey club, an operator, a player, or like a company that does like a skills-based company or a hockey camp company, it's really important that you get your message out there. And you're the one that sets that, you are the one that sets that, you set the narrative, right? So if you let somebody else set the narrative because you're doing some old school methods like brochures or advertising in papers or magazines, people can make opinions and say things about you that may not be what you want to get out there. So social media, it's basically free, and if you can promote the stuff you want to promote, the things that are important to you within your program, whatever program it may be, whatever type of platform it may be, that's your opportunity. So seize that opportunity.
Right. I mean, and again, you could spin anything any way you want. And, I think that is definitely a game changer. I'm starting to see it more out here in the Midwest, like the youth level. We're seeing more and more of that. I mean, I remember when I was running a club, that was one thing I really wanted us to do was it wasn't even social media, I guess, but it was just putting it on our website, like a video of like the day in the life of our program, or, and just have action shots, but also what we offer, what we do, this and that. And I'm sure it would have been great if people wanted to jump in on it, but they didn't. That's their problem. But, one of those things where I think it's just something that's definitely almost a necessity nowadays. And again, you don't want to be left behind, so I don't see why, too many people don't. That being said, you kind of touched on it a little bit, and I know it's something that we've kind of touched on, and I know it's something that I really touched on earlier this week about, skills coaches using social media. I'm not gonna put the name of anybody on there. But what is your, you and I both, we follow, a lot of different skills coaches, on Instagram, whatever, even YouTube. What are your thoughts on some of the, the ways they've used social media?
Well, I think that, I follow all that stuff, and sometimes I'll use it as a great resource to get some new drill ideas or new concepts. But inevitably, like if you're coaching skills, if you're coaching like a skills program, what's the purpose of that? Okay, the purpose is to get kids excited about playing. And the thing that would excite me as a player is to see progression. So like going from one place to the next place. But oftentimes I see just a coach talking, right? Coach talking or describing or giving feedback or something like that. And that doesn't really relay the message of where can I improve? Where can I get information from? What can I utilize to improve my game? It's just kind of like him showing off whatever. And I think that's kind of like you're really missing the boat. Like most of the stuff that I show for scoring concepts is stuff that like a kid doing the drill, a kid, performing some kind of task or obstacle, whatever it may be, because that's what kids want to see. The kids, I don't think they really want to see me doing something.
Right. They don't want to hear us when we're at the rink anyway. So why are they going to want to hear us off the rink,
Yeah. And as our guest says, like if a kid has his own video of himself, well, then he'll probably share that video. But if it's just me, who wants? I don't think they want to share me. And I certainly do like host a Wolves talk show and stuff like that. But when I do stuff, I want to show highlights of goals and of clips of players, because that's the stuff that's going to get shared, and that's the stuff that shows player improvement. Which, if you're improving every player, that's the essence of skill development. So I think those things go hand in hand. What are your thoughts, Trevor?
I mean, and the one that was in question was more or less a YouTube short, which is now going to be more or less your like Instagram story that YouTube's going to try and use, or has been using. But it was of a coach. Actually, it wasn't even a short; it was a 1-minute video talking about how never use the backhand. Never use it. Always open up on your offhand, off wing side, and open up to make that forehand pass. And as you and I both, sat there and talked about like one. With how the guy is and all of his videos, he's probably the type of guy that charges you to like take a picture with him. But outside of that, I mean, I didn't think it's not an appropriate thing to teach. And that's one thing. And I know when we get to our myths, that's, my biggest myth, but I think we're missing out on, we've got a lot of information, and here's somebody who's got professional videos, professional sound. Like you can tell he's mic'd up. It looks good. But he's telling kids, don't make a backhand pass. Don't make you've got kids that are watching, and you're sitting here using, some pretty heavy words such as don't do this, don't do that. And it's like, why? Why wouldn't you? It was relative to the backhand. Like, don't make a backhand pass, open up. And then it's like, so now you've got kids who are not being coached on their own at that time, seeing this. And to me, it's like, well, now they're going to be like, oh, well, this guy said don't ever use my backhand. I don't need to worry about it. Where you and I and almost most of the intelligent hockey community know that the backhand is one of the most underutilized skills taught and one of the most underutilized skills used. And, when I am hearing this and I'm seeing this, I'm just like, what are you doing, man? Like, you're ruining kids' like development by saying that stuff. But kids eat this stuff up. So, I mean, I think there's good and bad of the social media aspect of it, but here's a skills coach, and he's promoting all these camps that he's going all across the globe to do. And he's giving out advice that I would never give out. And it's not like the kids, I know one person said, oh, well, that's a young group, young kids, and, they may not be strong enough. So maybe that was his whole point. And I'm like, first of all, I don't care. Not like I care for your opinion, but I don't care. I don't believe that it matters of the age there. But two, it's still, you're not teaching the kids what they need to know, and you're using absolutes, as you said, in our discussion. So I wasn't, and again, here's somebody who is, kind of propped up as somebody important, or, somebody who knows what they're talking about. I've seen it with a few others, and I'm not going to name any people's names, but I've seen them on social media where I'm just like, okay, they're going with the same shit ad nauseum. Like, all right, let it go, bud. And it's just like, why? Like, this is not, so I think we all need to be careful, I think, in what, just like in anything with social media, we've got to be careful with what kind of information's going out there. But I know I just rambled on. That's my, my soapbox for this week.
I agree with you, though. And I think that, like, as we talked about in an earlier episode, kids are incredibly literal. So if you say don't do this or do this, that they get that wired in their brain, and they think that's the literal interpretation of what they need or need not do. So I think you got to avoid that kind of language. Anytime you use those absolute generalities, don't ever do this, don't ever do this, you're going to kind of put yourself in a situation where you're like stifling creativity. Gretzky did some crazy things out there that when he started to do them, they were like, well, that's never been done before. Well, then he also almost put up 3,000 points in the National Hockey League. I mean, like, those kind of like, don't ever stifle a kid's creativity. They're going to make mistakes as they go along. And you can coach them up. You can teach them some things that maybe you could have tried this better. Or maybe you could have done this. Maybe you could have, that would have been better utilized with this kind of support or this kind of situation. But avoid just blanket statements, because I think that's really unhealthy. And if you want to talk about backhands, and when you mentioned Sidney Crosby earlier, that guy can score anywhere in the offensive zone with his backhand. He has the best backhand, probably still in the National Hockey League.
Probably one of the best ever.
Yeah. So you got two sides of a stick.
Right. Exactly. And
it's not field hockey.
No. And there's some that say that he shoots almost damn near as hard as he does on his forehand or backhand as he does on his forehand. Like, he's actually given up some of the curve on his forehand. So just to continue to make his backhand stronger. But I digress on that. I agree. I think the problem is that I've seen a lot of this person's videos, and they do use a lot of those absolutes. Do this, don't do that. And again, it's not like, I think the point earlier I was trying to say was like, I could understand. I couldn't understand that if it was younger kids, like, because you still need to teach it. But these kids didn't look like they were like, mites. Like, they didn't look like they were 9 or 10. They looked like they were probably late Pee-wees, early Bantam ages, where this is where, you're in that golden age of skill development. And if you're not teaching kids how to use a backhand pass, and you're telling them like, oh no, you can't do it, you got to do this, like, you're ruining them, I think. And their potential to develop. I think it's, if he was used and he used the wording differently and said, here is an option to use if you can't use your backhand, boom, I think that changes the whole dynamic of the video. But again, when you say do not use, and you and I, again, no, just being so literal with that stuff, kids are like, well, shit, I don't have to use my backhand anymore. Screw Coach Trevor. I'm never going to do that again, because because Joe, YouTube star here, he's telling me I don't have to. So who am I going to believe? The guy who's on YouTube, or, the coach who, sends us emails on Yahoo, like to our parents,
I agree. And, I think that anytime you're a coach and just, starting out, I work with a guy, Oaktai Armigan, in New Jersey. He's a couple years older than me. He's now a skills coach in the North American League in the USHL with Youngstown. And he's a great coach. And sometimes it's not exactly what he's saying, but how he's saying it and how he's demonstrating it. And it's because he has defined his voice. He's found what works for him and what's true to himself. And I think that authenticity really matters as a coach. You look at guys in the NHL, you look at John Cooper, and people say, like, what makes John Cooper such a great coach? And it's like, well, his honesty and how he communicates with players, because he knows who he is. And that's
he's a lawyer.
He's a lawyer. Yeah. I mean, he knows how to get the most out of his guys because the guys trust what he's saying and trust the person that he is. So I would say that, if you're a young coach and you're watching a lot of these videos, don't just emulate what you're seeing. Take it as information, but then interpret it within your own voice, because that's really important. Because, if you try to emulate somebody else, you're not being true to yourself, and kids see through that stuff.
Absolutely. And they've probably heard it from the other person. So like, oh yeah, so Coach Trevor got it from Coach YouTube Pro over here. He's a phony. But again, I mean, to go back to social media in general, just in a general broad scope of everything, as we've said it, it can be a real detriment if you don't have it for your club. And, it can be something that really sets yourselves apart. Now on, with our today's interview, we brought in somebody who's been using it to really help set clubs and programs apart.
Absolutely. We have Brittany Hart. She is one of the social media directors for Neutral Zone. She's worked with the USPHL. She's worked with the EHL, and now she's currently with Level Hockey. It's one of the largest youth organizations here on the East Coast, and she does a fantastic job. We'll turn it over to that interview with Brittany Hart right now. All right, welcome to the podcast, Brittany Hart. Brittany has experience working with a number of the junior leagues here on the East Coast, the EHL, the USPHL. She currently works for Level Hockey as their social media director, and she does a tremendous job in promoting the program she's involved with. Welcome, Brittany Hart.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Now, I got a couple questions I want to ask you because, you really have such a great grasp of social media, marketing, advertising, and growing programs. What do you think, if you were starting a program from scratch and you were building a social media platform, what are some of the places you would start?
So first I would kind of start by knowing who exactly is in the program and kind of following, our demographic and general audience of players, whether that be the older players, whether it's like U16, U18, or the parents, because now I've noticed a lot of parents are actually on Instagram, or like Facebook obviously is more so parent, centered. Instagram is more so, I find, like the players, like the midget level players. But then some parents also now are on Instagram too, which I find to be kind of fun. And then I feel like for Twitter, it's kind of like a mix. Twitter's kind of like, I feel like dying, one could say. But I do find that a lot of parents tend to be on it, and then also just different coaches as well. So, if I'm going to be trying to promote an event that we're running at like Level Arena, Twitter's kind of a good place because a lot of coaches are able to see it. So if we're running a summer tournament, trying to blast that out to as many coaches as we can to get them in the building.
That's great. I kind of found the same thing too. When I first started to really do a lot of, like, get heavily more involved with the Wolves stuff, and you helped a lot with that for sure.
Yeah.
I found that Twitter was like more like a business oriented thing where you get some feedback from other people in businesses, and then definitely Instagram is great for kids, and the Facebook was like the dinosaurs, Yeah.
Yeah. Facebook is definitely for the parents. Now it's like kids don't even have it. Like, it's crazy to me because I grew up on Facebook. I'll go on it now, and it's like 12 years ago today you posted this. I'm like, that's terrifying. But kids now, they're like, why would I have a Facebook? That's for moms. I'm like, all right, well,
Yes.
fine. Then I will post things for your parents to see.
Now, Trevor and I are going to discuss, on our segment, a lot about the do's and don'ts and the things we've seen that have been both positive and negative in programs. Now, you kind of created in your head kind of the building of a great program using social media. What are things to avoid for programs with regards to social media? What kind of things that would be negative things that they would promote or things that they shouldn't do?
For me, especially like for our youth programs, we do have some teams that are like really dominant and like, win by a large margin pretty much like every game. So promoting like the scores for that kind of stuff, to me, it's just like, there's no point in it. We don't need to bring other programs down. You can promote that your teams are winning and things like that, but incorporating scores when it's that large of a margin is just like completely unnecessary. And I've also seen I find on Twitter sometimes where teams will subtweet other teams, and it kind of creates a bad look for the teams and like the league overall. So I find it to just, post the facts, nothing more. You don't really need to, create a story in terms of game scores and things like that. So that's one thing that I found is just keep it, factual when talking about games and stuff like that.
Yeah, you bring up something. I remember when there was a divide in the junior leagues here on the East Coast about 6-7 years ago. There was a lot of Twitter just frenzies going on. Sometimes on a Friday night at maybe about 9 o'clock, it would get to be like in Hooksett, New Hampshire. Everybody was on their Twitter, and I thought
right.
I'd like to watch, but I don't really want to be involved.
Right. It is kind of entertaining, but at the same time, that's not for me.
Now, looking forward, where do you see this all trending in the future? We see a lot of skills coaches promoting their businesses on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Where do you see the future of social media, in your opinion, with regards to youth hockey?
For youth hockey, I think it's going to be easier to kind of, one, promote your players to events such as like CCM 68, right? So they take the 68 best in this year, it's 2009s. But so if you're able to promote those players that are being selected for like those kind of tournaments, again, it's like the top 68 kids in the country, that's going to be easier to do with a social media presence where you're able to, blast out highlights or just scores, for those players who are trying to get to the next level. So that's kind of like the older side of youth. But then also you kind of see now that kids are moving to play youth hockey. So if you are able to, again, create a social media presence and kind of brand yourself as, you can come here and this is what you'll get by playing for our program. I've definitely seen some kids come over to Lovell just because they know our program is successful. And that obviously helps when they're able to kind of see your content on social media. That's what parents are seeing. They'll go, on the Explore page on Instagram and, oh, look, there's, our 2015 elite team winning the E9 or something like that. But I think it's definitely going to be easier to get players in, especially at the youth level, and kind of create, a powerhouse team when you have parents who are able to find your, content easily.
That's a great point. I mean, if you go back, rewind 10 years ago and, you had to put that stuff on your website and you just hope that somebody would view your website. You go back 15 years before that, you would hope that you'd be in some kind of regional publication or USA Hockey Magazine, and that could spark the interest of a parent or player. But now it's everybody's, right in their fingertips, right in their phone. They can see the information that you're providing about your program, and it can make a big impact upon what their decision-making will be for where they're going to play hockey. So I think that's dead on accurate.
I mean,
absolutely.
Do you remember when we used to have to send smoke signals out just to let everybody know about our programs?
Yeah, I live in the woods in New Hampshire, so I make a lot of fires.
That's a dad joke.
Right,
Sorry.
you do live in the middle of nowhere.
Trevor, what do you got for Brittany?
Brittany, how did you, again, this is definitely all awesome information. How did you get started doing this for, junior hockey clubs?
So my senior year of college, I needed a internship to graduate, and I was going to school for sports communications. So I actually just had friends who were playing for the Walpole Express at the time, and I saw that they needed a social media intern. So I actually the contact for that position was Neil. So I emailed Neil Revan, and then
Wow.
the next season, so in August, I started with just Walpole, and I was doing some league stuff that season, and then it kind of just took off from there.
And what? Who are some of the leagues that you are, or teams in itself that you're working for right now?
So right now I'm just doing level hockey, and then I was also contracted by the USPHL last year to do. So I did a few events for them. I did an outdoor game in Charlotte last year, and then I did a few showcases at Cyclones Arena up in Hudson, and then I did a showcase in Detroit as well. And then I also work like their finals and stuff. So some of the teams like the South Shore Kings, I would do a little bit of stuff for them too here and there. And then when I was down on Long Island for the finals, I did stuff for PAL and then the Kings as well.
And then I guess, yeah, I mean, really, that's all, again, fantastic. And I'm sure I actually had family at the Raleigh game, so, or not Raleigh, but down in Carolina for that. And they said it was awesome.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun.
What, how much of the social media aspect of it are you involved in with more like video or audio? Or both?
So I kind of do all the pictures. So all like the in-game photos for all of level hockey. So we have 6 youth organizations. So I do the photos for all 6. And then I make the graphics for our social media accounts as well. I haven't really done that much video in terms of youth stuff, but then when I was with the EHL, I was doing a lot of sit-down videos, like filming league recaps and then doing my little Brits commits segment. Remember that?
Oh, I loved it.
That was unbelievable.
I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. I love our guys doing it now, and I'm a big supporter. But Brittany, she brought the bite. She would come out there and she throws some haymakers on the podcast. And
okay,
watch out.
I actually probably shouldn't be don't be unprofessional, because I literally would take shots at people on the EHL podcast. So I'm kind of being a hypocrite, but it's fine.
Live and learn, right?
At least I was only representing my own thoughts, not a team. So
fair enough. Well, last thing I'm going to leave you with, Brittany. I'm going to ask you one last question. If you had to give a word of advice to a program operator or a hockey director, and they're starting from scratch, and they want to build, a great platform. They want to build a great organization. They have all the tools and they have all the resources. They have a great rank. They have the right leagues. What would you say to their starting point into social media? What would you say to them? What words of advice?
My thing that I have found to be the most successful is honestly game photos and game video content. That's going to take off astronomically, I feel just compared to a game day graphic or something. When you're posting game footage and game photos, all the players are reposting that, and then their friends are reposting it, and the parents are reposting it. So it just gets blasted out to a wider audience rather than, like I said, a game day post or something like that. And then honestly, just promoting your players as much as you can, because people notice it and people see it, whether it's coaches at the next level or just teams in your own league or division or something like that. As much publicity as you can get for your players, the better, because they said the better exposure it's going to be for them to get to the next level or, wherever they're trying to go.
That's great information, Brittany. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Hockey Toolkit, and we wish you a ton of success this season with Level Hockey and all their programs they got under that roof. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, and good luck to you guys.
Thanks.
All right, Trevor. So what are some of the things that Brittany unlocked for you? What kind of stuff really kind of struck a chord with you?
Well, I mean, again, thank you, Brittany, for coming on and definitely providing that information. We said it earlier in the podcast, but I mean, she highlighted it, and she's kind of what started the whole discussion there. It's really great to have it to be, the player focused. I mean, in the sense of get those kids out there, promoting them, and then in turn, they're going to promote themselves, which is basically doing the work, is doing free work for yourself, because as in like yourself as the club, because they're promoting the players that are within your club, and people are going to see that, whether it's current players or families, whether it's prospective players and families, whether it's, even down the line, I mean, you never know who's watching these things. So, I mean, you never know what good you can get out of it. In the sense of, maybe it's a business opportunity. Maybe, hey, someone's like, hey, man, this is great. I would love for my company's logo to be, on the background of that rink or somewhere, whatever. I mean, so I think she made, a great point, was that just, it's great for the kids. And then on the other side is, let it do the work on its own. It's going to do so much for you guys. So, I mean, I took a lot of good information out of that, stuff that I wish, when I was running the program, we would have done more of. But what about yourself, Coach? What did you really enjoy and got out of that one?
Yeah, I agree. And, I always want to find ways that can grow our audience and make it more marketable for our athletes. And I think she mentioned something about, the videos being really important, about player-centric videos. And we have a great...
Instead of you being in every video?
Yes. Instead of maybe, yeah. And
well, we're never going to see you in a video again.
I'm done.
You're going to take this to heart, but I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna wear a mask next time. I'm gonna like one of those guys from what is that movie where they jump out of the airplanes?
What, Point Break or Point Blank? Was that what it was?
Point Break.
Point Break. Okay, I was right.
I'm going to put on my Ronald Reagan mask next one. And then the next episode will be Richard Nixon.
I'm still going to be in your head, though.
but I think that's really great information, because the kids will share that content. And, we have a great video guy who does our stuff, Tom Misser, and he does a lot of stuff up at Gunstock Mountain, which is a ski resort that's in our town. And, he, really does a great job of highlighting the best aspects of the game, whether it's big hits, big goals, big celebrations, stuff that can really, get interactive with what we're trying to promote. And I think that really, as an organization, if you're trying to, create a community, you have to do that. You have to have a community of followers who a parent will tune in on Facebook because they can maybe see their kid mentioned. Instagram, you'll have friends tune in because maybe they can see their buddy mentioned. Twitter, yep. They'll tune in because maybe it's a business opportunity, like you said. So if you're not doing it, you're missing out.
No, absolutely. And I did find it funny how she had said, Facebook's now more for the older folks. And that one was like a dagger, because I was just like, oh yeah. Granted, I don't use Facebook. That really, I probably have an account, but I don't use it. But I found that funny, because I was like, well, yeah, I mean, when I was 19, that's when Facebook really took off. And now all of a sudden, I mean, it is true. I guess the kids that I coach, probably their parents are my age. But yeah, I mean, it's...
You didn't mention MySpace, though.
Oh, man. I don't even know if I would have... Yeah. God, those were the days. Thanks, Tom. But yeah.
Good reference.
I know.
forgot the guy's name. It's a basic name. That's funny.
He's friends with everybody. But so I thought it was great. I thought it was very informative there. And again, you have to, I think in today's, day and age, you've got to hit every medium that you can with social media, whether that is Twitter, that's YouTube, that's Facebook, that's let's see what else have I been missing here, Instagram, whether that's TikTok. I mean, I don't have TikTok. That's the one where I've drawn my line in the sand. I am not crossing into this, because I just know it destroys people's lives with how much they're on it. But I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of teams that have TikToks. So, do the Wolves have a TikTok?
No, I joined it. I did about 6 months ago, but I don't know how to utilize it. So,
that's how you know we're getting old. Where we just don't even know how.
If I could figure out how to utilize it and where to utilize it, maybe that somebody who's listening to this podcast, shoot me a message how to utilize it. I know it's got a algorithm that the Chinese government can follow me and
That's true.
access my phone and all that stuff. But I got nothing to hide. I'm okay.
They were able to infiltrate America through a junior hockey coach's phone.
I was living in the boondocks of New Hampshire. Yeah. They got a free meal at Cactus Jack's in downtown Laconia.
There you go. But no, it was like I said. I mean, it's very informative. I love how that. That's kind of what she's taken it and she's run with it. And I mean, she had to have gotten in right at the right time, because I feel like almost nowadays most clubs have some type of social media manager. Especially with the juniors pro levels. And the ones that don't, they're just way too far behind. I mean, they're behind and they need, well, I'm not going to tell them that they need to figure it out, because then that would be helping them and hurting you guys that are the smart ones and are actually keeping up. So,
well, what do we got for our 5 minutes today, Trevor? I know we got 5 minutes of social media, but I think we have a pretty good dialogue with it regarding some of the things we've seen positively and negatively on social media.
So yeah, obviously, so today's 5 minutes was just kind of on social media as a whole. And again, it's not we're not really picking out any one general area or specific, medium that we can use. It's just more or less 5 minutes of social media.
Yeah.
And I grabbed the long straw today, so you're up first here, Coach.
All right, number one, and this really came out about. I think everything started with that Patrick Kane, was it a Bauer video?
Yeah.
Where he was stick handling through 80, 100 pucks, and people were like, holy crap, this guy's skill, his hands are sick. But then soon thereafter, every skill coach wanted to create an elaborate scheme on the ice in which they had his stick handle through. And I saw videos for 5 years of either a coach or one player, head down, stick handling through 8,000 obstacles. And I thought to myself, and this is our myth number one, the more elaborate the drill, the better. And I couldn't disagree more that sometimes simple drills are the ideal drill to improve a specific skill. If you're focused on this elaborate drill, maybe you're missing some of the important critical components of improving your game. When you're stick handling, your head should be up. Right. When you're skating, you should be taking long strides, not short little choppy strides to avoid some kind of little obstacle. You need to learn how to pick up pucks off the wall. There's no obstacle other than the wall in those types of situations. We talked last week to Mike King. He talks about wall play, how important that is at the NHL level. So that's a pretty boring drill, picking up pucks off the wall and keeping your feet moving and getting your head up to avoid a defender. It's a basic drill. It's pretty boring, but it's used 1,000 times a game. So the more elaborate the drill doesn't make it better.
No, and as you said, it's not a sexy looking drill where the guys or the players jump in and does a 360 over a bunch of pylons, and and then the coach goes and tells me, oh, they're using their edges. They're real. I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's just no, you're doing this because you want somebody to stop and be like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. We hit on the same spots of agreeing here with it doesn't have to be that elaborate, and sometimes. The videos that I've really enjoyed was when Daryl Belfer used to put his videos on, on YouTube. This was, probably 10, 12 years ago when he was working with the pros. And you look at the drills and they're not anything special. They're not, basically he's using himself as the constraint in the video, whether it's putting slight pressure on somebody or something. And that's it. He doesn't have all those, toys and, all this other shit out there that you see a lot of skill coaches use nowadays. It's just basically kind of mimicking game scenarios and kind of the options that you want to be using and just reinforcing the main points. As you said, getting your head up, scanning the ice. You hit it on the head when you said, wall play, picking the puck off the wall is one of the most is a skill on itself, and it's very underutilized. And what do you see most of the time? Most of the time you see a coach making the pass. I love it when I go through and I see a skills video. And again, I've taken drills from those.
Definitely.
The good ones. But I love it when I see the players making the pass. I don't need to see the skills coach making a pass. Now, again, if it's just one-on-one, obviously someone has to make the pass, and, the ghost of Gordie Howe's not out there doing it for him. But, so, again, I agree that, it doesn't need to be elaborate. It doesn't need to be crazy. And, again, sometimes just it should be, just doesn't have to be too crazy out of the realm, and you don't need all the flash, Sometimes less is more.
Definitely. What do you got for number 2, Trevor?
So number 2, this kind of falls back into our previous topic, our discussion. The more followers means, the more reputable they are. The more informed they are. And actually, this came out of that tweet that I posted, where somebody did say, like, oh yeah, well, just what makes this person popular, and they were right. I mean, I put down just because of the views and the type of content they're putting out. I mean, people mistaken that for popularity, for, like this, they mean something because they've got this many followers. I mean, you and I see it all the time on Twitter. I mean, our followers, both of us were under, and I'm not saying we're reputable. I would think we've got some good information, but we're both under 1,000 people. Like, okay. But we've seen, some of these accounts that have like 17,000, 18,000, and they could be some of the dumbest. They could write some of the dumbest shit we've ever read in our entire lives. I just looked at one that was, and again, that's not skills, but a Blackhawks social media account for a group, I think it's like Blackhawks and up or whatever. And they're like, who would you rather have? Connor McDavid and no Stanley Cups, or Jack Eichel. And I'm like, I'd still probably take McDavid. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not either one's going to work, but, because Eichel's 1-for-1 in the Stanley Cup Finals, like, okay, well, it takes a team, like that type of stuff. Sure. Like, that's a reputable, is that going to be literally a reputable? So, I think people just need to make sure that you're looking really at the content that's being put out there. And again, we go back to the previous one where he was like, oh, don't make backhand passes. Don't, like, why are you telling kids not to use a skill that is already underutilized and underused? Like, you've basically now turned them off from it. And in a game, who knows what's going to go through their head. So, I think it's really look at the content more so than, how many followers they have, how many this and that. I mean, we've had some crazy ex-presidents that had a ton of followers, and, whatever, but that's neither here nor there. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one.
Yeah. We've had Dave Starman on the podcast, and Dave puts out some great content either on certain sites or on his own social media. And, he doesn't have 1 million followers. He obviously is a recognized voice, but, he's not producing that same level of like sophisticated content that some other these big companies are, but it's good content.
Absolutely.
And I think we got an upcoming podcast with a great podcast voice. I think the Hockey Think Tank does some great stuff. I love following their stuff, and I think they use a lot of game footage, and Topher will voice over what's going on, and I've actually shown that to my teams before, especially with he had a great clip on Patrick Maroon and wall play, and that's great stuff.
I think I used the same exact one.
Yeah, and he doesn't have 1 million followers, but it's good content, and I'd rather have quality rather than quantity.
No, exactly. So, what do you got for number 3, Coach?
The focus should be on the coach.
What do you mean?
All the time, it's like I see the let's say you got a diet. You're selling a diet pill, right?
Yep.
Usually they have the before and they'll have the after, right? They don't just have the after with the ripped up guy who's like, or like the jacked up chick. That sometimes happens, but like, if you're looking to lose weight, you want the before and the after, right? So I'd rather see a video of a kid executing a drill where he struggles with it and maybe make some improvements, or kids that are falling down and trying different things but look actively engaged in the drill, or they're having fun at their camp or clinic or whatever it may be. So you see the level of engagement going on, rather than just the coach just, running his mouth and shooting off some information. If you're coaching hockey kids, if you're coaching hockey players, the focus should be on the players.
Right. No, and again, when you've, in the hockey planner, when you've shown some of the drills that you use, I mean, you use the players. I'm not watching coaches who can probably 90% of those drills do them better than the players at that time. That's not what we're here to see. We want to see what it's going to look like. And you know what? No offense to any of the players, but it's not always going to look pretty. We're not expecting you to. If it was going to look pretty every single time, why the hell are we doing it? So it's more or less, get you out of that comfort zone, get you to do those things. And again, I don't need to see a coach do it. Like, unless the coach is, diagramming the drill, or really showing it, but you can find players that do it. You can find it, and I think that resonates more because I would rather see, a coach explaining it, fine, but I'd rather see the player doing it themselves. So, I mean, I don't disagree on that front. Number 4 is that, quantity over quality. And, I'm not a big, I think that, again, social media, the attention span we talked about last week as well, Coach, King, it's short. You've got so much time with these kids. And even as an adult, if I'm not getting anything out of something within the first 15, 20 seconds, I'm okay, what am I doing here? I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. So I think it's important that any type of videos that we're putting out, whether it's highlight packages, whether it's, teaching for players, with some of these skills coaches or regular coaches, I want to make sure that it's quality and it's just not something that, I threw it together in 2 seconds. At least it's something and it keeps the record, it keeps it going. This is not Snapchat streaks or something where you're just trying to keep shit going. It's put out the quality stuff. And I think that really says a lot because I would rather not see something from somebody for 3 days and then get something that's really powerful. Really, I think, again, not saying when I say powerful, it makes it sound like, oh my God, it's going to change their lives forever, which maybe there's stuff out there that is, but, I'm not seeing it. That being said, quality wise, just make sure it's something that's, you've got my eyeballs and my attention for so much time. Make sure it's good because again, if it's not, I think you're pumping out just to pump stuff out. Eventually, I'm going to notice that, and you're going to lose my interest, and I think you're going to lose, especially kids, if that's who you're gearing your stuff towards. You're going to eventually lose their interest too.
Yeah, I think it's hard to bring a person into your audience, but it's easy to lose them.
Yeah,
it's really easy to lose them, and if you're producing poor content that doesn't really show a lot of value, then they're going to walk out the door and probably not look back.
No, definitely. All right, Coach, what do you got for number 5 here?
Number 5 is that you have to be specific in your videos. We see a lot of content of people drilling down into these deep dives on things. And sometimes they'll, I've seen a lot of videos when they first started coming out on YouTube that were, one drill that was explained for 9, 10, 12 minutes. And it's that's a long way to go through. And I'm kind of, I want to get to the meat of the video. So you kind of skip forward sometimes on those things. But, you can sum things up pretty quickly if you need to. And I think most times people can sum things up in that, like you talked about earlier, 15, 30, 45 seconds, but definitely under 1 minute. And it doesn't always have to be every single detail. When I'm doing a practice, let's say I'm running a drill on the ice, I'll diagram it on the board. And if the first kid messes up, that's okay. The second kid messes up, that's okay. We can let the drill materialize a little bit. I can talk to a kid in line and say, hey, the drill's actually supposed to do this. Or the next kid, hey, we're supposed to do this. But let it brew for a little bit. Let it stew in the pot a little bit. And if it's really messing up, blow the whistle, bring them in, give them 20 seconds of instruction, and let them go back at it. When you get so specific and drill down so deep to, where you're having kids sit on the ice for 5, 6, 7 minutes because you're, expounding on about something, you'll lose them and they don't even know what you're talking about. So keep things short, keep things sweet, and also keep things engaging and fun.
No, and I agree. I mean, it's one of those, especially one of those things where I've said it before, ice is the most expensive thing as a parent or a coach, whatever, we're going to ever pay for. So why would someone want to use that amount of time or the time they have sitting there talking when you can do that off the ice? So,
Absolutely.
your videos, your anything like that, keep it short, get to the point. And again, if you're making, you're a skills coach or you're anyone, you're putting something out there, keep it short. And if you feel like there's more information that needs to be added, then put it in the notes, put it in the description. Like, you can also add this, or you can progress to this, or you could do that. Or, hey, guess what? Now make another video of the progression of that drill or whatever. Instead of making it a whole, 10-minute video with 5 different stages, well, go 2 minutes every one. You know what? That's going to keep me interested. I'm not going to have to watch, number 4 and 5 if I'm only on stage 1. That's all I need. So I think from that standpoint, of course, I think that's, keep it short, keep it to the point. Less is more. As one of my buddies, continually says, less is more. So I like that. And again, your videos, especially if we're talking about social media for teams, online, anything, player highlights, unless you're doing like a long form, like, hey, 2.5 minute video, like a recruiting video, I don't need to see like the same 10 different things, and for 2 minutes straight. You're going to lose me after about the first 30 seconds after that. So, I mean, unless I'm watching 2 people like, play, fist to face, like then, okay, then then it might be good. But outside of that, yeah. So short, time does make, it makes a difference in how much we're going to retain and how much we want to continue to use that. So, as we talked about before, Topher, using at the think tank, his videos are not extremely long. I've talked about it before, like with Mitch Jaguar, who I've used quite a bit to get video to use to show to my teams. Like, his videos are no more than like a minute, 2 minutes tops, and they're just, here's what you need to see, here's what you need to know, and if I need to expound on it or I see something else, I'll do that. But let's not get too crazy with it. So,
absolutely.
Those are the 5 myths of our social media, and I know that was a little bit more geared towards. I guess you could say just your coaches involved, but I think we've, overall, I think this is a good, definitely good discussion on just social media in general, throughout the whole landscape of the programs and, whether youth, pro, juniors, college, whatever. So, I mean, again, thank you to Brittany for coming on and, talking with us. Anything, you want to hit on, Coach, before we, sign off here?
No, my last thing, we actually sent out an email this morning to our teams at the youth level, not our junior teams, to do a hockey shot challenge. And I saw we have a new app. A friend shared it with me where you can track your team, every kid's shooting. And we're talking about social media. We're talking about technology. Let's get on that, utilizing those apps, and let's get some hockey shot challenges going, because there's no better place to, improve your game at a minimal cost than off the ice shooting. And you got a great summer here ahead of you. You can get a tan. You can be outside. You can be in flip flops, and you can rip some pucks and improve your game. And I remember the interview with Rick Tockett on Spit and Chicklets about 3-4 months ago, and he said he made a big jump when he was a pro hockey player, from like when he was 23 to 24 or something like that range. And he went from like being a 20 goal scorer to like a 40 goal scorer, just because he said, well, I'm going to shoot X amount of pucks every day all summer in my parents' backyard, and he did it. So if it works for the pros, it can work for anybody.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, and again, that's maybe another, topic for another time, a whole show on just apps, but I've used those before. I don't remember which specific one you were put in the email today. I don't know, maybe I didn't even get the email. Maybe I'm now getting excommunicated from your email groups, but
no, this is just our Wolves teams, that's all.
Oh, that's why. Okay, yeah. So, all right. Well, I thought I was still cool, but anyhow, yeah. So no, we've done.
What birth year are you?
I'm an 89, unfortunately. So yeah, I guess I missed that boat. Maybe in another life.
You're
Senior
on
league.
U40. You're on the U40 team.
I'm on the senior league team. They brought in the Chicagoan. Yeah, no, we've used those before. I used that one time in the season with my Pee-wees that I had. they just tracked their shots, and I had one kid, unbelievable number. I couldn't even tell you what it was, but it was like almost triple the next kid, and I believed it because I saw his shot improve, and it's amazing how much you can improve in certain areas off the ice.
Yeah.
And his parents would tell me, like, he literally just gets home from school and goes down in the basement and just shoots puck after puck. And then, like, we hear it. Like, we want him to stop at times because it's just so loud. But the kid was great. Great shooter. Great, really improved. So, and again, it's something where you can just go out and have fun, too. You don't have to do it all day. We're not... And it's up to you. Like, if you're having a contest, I think that's even, that's cool. But, no, that's awesome. I think that's fantastic. You guys are using that. And definitely, I think we can talk about an app session here. At least maybe toss that into a mailbag or something soon. But
absolutely.
Yeah, actually, I'm trying to think here. Anything else coming up big for the Wolves anytime soon? I mean, you just got back from, doing your European tour. So,
No, I'm headed out to Denver this week here. I'm in New Hampshire. Then I headed out to Denver for that USJDP camp. It's run by Mike Gempler out at the University of Denver. That's always a good camp. I had some great coaches, Johnny Roger and Jason Franzone I worked with last year. They were a lot of fun. So I'm doing that again. That's going to be
nice.
A week-long camp starting on the 24th or 25th. And I always get a lot, like we talked about earlier, like you get a lot from other coaches. So I really enjoy that experience because, I'll pick up 2 or 3 new drills and get to meet another connection that, maybe there's a player down the road. I can say, hey, Jason, this is a good kid for your program. Or John says to me, hey, I got a U16 kid that's looking to play in the EHL. And that network makes a big difference.
Awesome. That's sounds like fun.
Yeah. How about yourself, Trevor?
Actually, I'm going to, I'll be heading up to Ann Arbor. Myself and my fellow mentor, Randy Jordan, we're heading up to TCS Live. We're going to meet at the coach's site live. So if you want an autograph and you're listening right now, I'm just kidding. I will probably be the least known, and which is fine, which it should be. I have nothing to brag about besides having an awesome podcast and podcasting partner here, but no, I'm looking really forward to it. They've released basically who the whole agenda, like who they have coming out, and it's, some big names.
Who are some of the names?
Oh God, you're gonna now put me on the spot about it.
Sorry.
Well, I do know. I believe Mr. Mike Babcock's going to be there.
That'll be interesting.
Talking about that is the last one, I think. Talking about the gold medal game that he was the head coach in. I know we've got, Mitch Jaguar is going to be doing one. I believe Dan Arnell's going to be doing one. Let me see here. So we got, we've got a ton. We've got, Dan Arnell. We have Coach Pete DeBoer of the, on the first night with the Dallas Stars. We've got head coach of the female Czechia's world hockey team. Her name is Carla McLeod. We have, let's see what else we got here. We got Ryan Huska, the new head coach of the Calgary Flames. Wow. We've got so many different people here that, again, it's going to be really cool. There's a lot of different, John Riley is going to be there. Just so many. Derek Lalonde, the Red Wings head coach. So again, I'm really looking forward to it. A lot of great topics, a lot of great people. Just also able to network and really kind of just see what's out there. It's my first time. I'm looking forward to it. So
that's great. I'm sure you have a blast, and you'll come away with that great information, and that'll be even a discussion point on our next podcast. So that's good stuff, buddy.
No, for sure. Actually, I got Brandon Naurato here, Glenn Goltzen. Man, I'm missing the ball here. We've got best-selling author Jody Carrington. Man, I should probably just stop reading it day by day and just because I just keep pumping myself up even more. Ken Martell is going to be there. Oh, nice. Yeah. And again, I'm not going to go through anyone. I don't want anyone who's listening to feel disgraced because we didn't say them. But I will say that looks like Mike Babcock and Elliot Friedman. I don't know if they're going to be there or not, but that's who it looks like they're going to have a interview of. So about that gold medal game. So hey, at the end of the day, I'm looking forward to it. Again, as you said, the opportunity to learn, network, talk with other coaches. Put some actual faces to the Twitter handle names that I've been dealing with or not dealing with, but getting to know. So look forward to it. So outside of that, Coach, you have a good one, and we'll definitely look forward to talking to you and with everything else coming up here.
Sounds good, Trevor. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yep, have a good one.